This is Esper, make you live again, make you live again. I'm going to guess it's meant to be make you live again, but you know, English and names and whatnot, names, words and whatnot, hard to understand sometimes. But yeah. This game, by the way, I actually did help out with. I know the author of the game. He's actually the author of a tool that I've used for quite a few years in Warframe. He is the author of the Warframe Builder website. He was looking for help with this. He made an announcement on the site a while back, and I offered to help, and I have helped on this game. I'm actually in the credits, but not as my screen name. So there is that. Also, I will say, I have played through this entire game. I know all of the story, etc., as you can see by the quick saves. The autosave, the quick save, the actual save. That is during the actual time in which I helped on this game. I already have like 41 hours in this game. But we're just gonna go right into it. New game. This is a kinetic novel, or yeah, kinetic novel. It's kind of like a visual novel, but minus any of the choices. Game music is slightly loud, huh? Okay. I mean, it's gonna be a little bit better as things go on, because the music isn't going to be constantly playing, but I can lower it just a bit if needed. Cal play a VN? That's new, at least to me, huh? Yeah, I guess I haven't actually played a VN before on stream, or to even put it up on YouTube, for that matter. I have played VNs. I do play VNs, though I haven't played a VN in quite some time. They're not really my thing, but I do enjoy the story in them, because they're more story-driven than anything. That said, there might be a few games I might consider playing during the month of October. We will see. Anyway. I remember it like it was yesterday. That morning when my alarm clack? My alarm clack rang. I had not been able to sleep yet. I had just endured a seemingly endless... Holy fucking hell, me read properly. Seemingly endless night during which I had not closed my eyes for even a second. Okay. I remember turning around in my bed no less than 1,000 times. No less than 1,000 times. Looking at the clock about 100 times and getting up several times to drink water, without this having any effect on me. I will say, if there is any oddities in the language, you can partly blame that on me. What I did for this game was actually read over the English translation of the French dialogue to make sure everything made sense. I am not the translator, but I wrote over it just to kind of make sure everything worked and made sense. But I may have missed something. He did get someone else to also read over it, but you know it's possible. Alarm clock is Boyle from Josie. Alarm clock. Got that alarm clock there. I could not help thinking about what was waiting for me on this day that I had been waiting for. But it was not excitement that was keeping me awake, despite me trying to convince myself so. No, it was more than that. I did not want to admit it, but I was scared. For several days I had been apprehensive about what was going to happen, and as this grand event drew ever closer, my apprehension had turned into something stronger. I was extremely anxious. By the way, this game is available on Steam. I actually made a comment about it in Discord at one point, and I even tweeted about it. Check it out. Buy it, whatever. You know, helps out the author and whatnot. Yeah. That's all I really say about that. I don't want to push that too hard. But, continue on. And yet, I was far from imagining what was going to happen to me. I was far from imagining that my life was going to change the way it did. Far from imagining that I did not even know who I really was. But these events made me who I am today, and I would not change them for the world. This experience changed my life forever. I suppose the lives of some people are now very dear to me. By the way, I did not realize how long this black screen was when I was initially going through this. I kind of wish there was maybe something, but fair enough. I also have written a review of this game on Steam. I'm one of like the 3 or 4 that I'm aware of at this point in time. But yeah, there is me. That is me. This is the art style. How goes the art style? Is music still a little bit too loud, Lamb? By the way, there are totally references to other games and franchises in the background and stuff like that throughout this game and some other bits and details like that. I'm not going to point them out, but they are there. So if you want to have a little bit of fun of a Easter egg hunt or scavenger hunt of some description, feel free to kind of, pay attention to the background. Not as bad at the title screen. Fair enough. Little eggs. After this particularly difficult night, I had trouble swallowing my breakfast. The knot in my stomach was getting worse due to my inability to calmly handle the weight leading up to an important event. As if to remind myself that today was special, I passed the time in front of a mirror that I did not normally use, checking my hair and my uniform to make sure that they were perfect. I did not want to leave anything to chance. Yesterday, I had even lined up my shoes in front of the entrance so that I only needed to slip them on when it was time to go. My key and my phone, on the other hand, were properly placed on my desk. I had tried to anticipate everything. I wanted everything to be perfect. This was, however, not part of my usual routine. Don't get me wrong, I was a serious student, but I never really paid much attention to such details. However, learning that I was finally ready to pass my exam changed something inside me. My brain just threw in the word "of" there. Coughing. I realized that the hardest part was still ahead, and I think I wanted to do too much, or maybe too well. I didn't really figure out how to maybe reword that to be slightly better. It made sense. I don't know. As I was about to leave my room after having checked my hair and my uniform in the mirror for the umpteenth time, I began thinking about us Espers. You'll learn what an Esper is soon enough. And more particularly about the gift we possess. I sat back down on my bed. Can I really do that? Can I really see into other people's minds? Can I really? I was only 19 at the time, and despite my 11 years at the academy, I had a lot of trouble imagining the extent of what Espers could achieve, of what I could achieve. Saw it as a power, an ability that allowed me to understand people's feelings as well as read the thoughts and memory fragments of those who were desperate enough to not want to go on living anymore and would allow me to help them with their troubles. But this was a concept still too abstract for me to comprehend. My training was not yet complete. I was still unable to do those things. I only knew what I had been taught and had experimented with in class. There are other characters in this game, I promise. Gotta get that intro dialogue out of the way, just like with any kind of game or VN or anything. I will always remember that moment when I learned that I was going to develop these kinds of abilities as I grew up. At the time, I was a bit frightened, more than a bit even, but I was still very young, only 8 years old. I would not react in any other way. It did not seem like something amusing to me, being able to see and feel and even relive other people's traumatic events and feel what they had felt, be it sadness or fear. I did not ask for this. I didn't want it. But in the end, after a few months, my fears dissipated. The use of my abilities was restricted, and when I was allowed to use them, it was always under the watchful eye of a teacher. I was constantly supervised. Nothing bad could happen to me. Worked like this for years until the day something began to change within me. I should have been very happy about this. To be unable to freely dive into other people's broken hearts, the one thing that had scared me so much when I was younger, but to be honest, that was no longer the case. I learned one important thing during my years at the Esper Academy. While the powers Espers possess can be frightening, they can also, and more importantly, be used to help people. They can help people find the will to carry on. Wait, is there another word at the end of that? No. No, I just saw the arrow thing, was it? Whatever. Yeah, puberty late? Not quite, Lamb. Not quite. I did not know how to explain it back then. I just assumed that I had the power to help people in need, and I was quite content with the simple definition of my abilities. Of course, everything is much clearer to me now. I am no longer that young and inexperienced. When an Esper is able to read another person's feelings and memories, it's generally because that person is unconsciously calling out for help. They may well be abandoning their last hope of leading a happy life or getting out of whatever difficult situation they found themselves in. For that matter, if someone in that state does not receive help from an Esper within the first few weeks of exhibiting symptoms, they become permanently depressed or worse. At that point, Espers can no longer help them. Naturally, the most powerful and experienced Espers are capable of feeling those in need dozens of kilometers around them. We don't happen across people in need by chance. There are enough Espers to be everywhere on the globe, and enough of us to cover very large regions. We have been a perfectly functional institution for many years now. Unfortunately, and this happens occasionally, when a person is deeply affected by the problems, we are not able to get them the help they need in time. On the other hand, certain people can wait months for an Esper's help without the notable aggravation of their current state. As for everything, there are exceptions. I knew from a very young age that whatever I did, I was going to have to live with these abilities. Even if I had chosen to ignore them and not followed my Esper training to its completion, my abilities would still have developed by itself. Enough that I may, on occasion, feel the pain of those in need, but not enough that I would be able to help them. At least that is what I was told, and as it turns out, I wasn't lied to. This is a burden all young people who possess the abilities of an Esper must bear. To live with them. No, that effect is a lot better not spoken. I did not choose to have these abilities, but I did make one choice. I chose to accept this gift and to accept who I was. I chose to help others and give purpose to my life and my abilities. I chose not to suffer through what nature had given me. For this reason, I followed my Esper training to its completion, to the day of my final exam, to the day my life changed forever. Final exam is something special for all Espers. Every final exam is different, each one having been prepared exclusively for the Esper who must take it. Some Espers have more capabilities than others, and all of us have quite different combinations of skills and qualities. Therefore, the contents of the exam are a good indication of what is expected of us. One possibility is to be given a written test lasting several hours, and in that case, there is a high likelihood of being offered a teaching post in an academy based on the needs. The other possibility is to be sent out in the field. It is precisely this that the most ambitious Espers aim to do, and that's what I was aiming for. Since only this type of exam leads to becoming an Esper in the true sense of the word. Those who help people. There are also the more normal jobs. Some have talents that surpass their Esper abilities and they become accountants, psychologists, or even doctors on behalf of the Espers. For most, that is a proof of failure, but some see it as a more interesting path and sometimes an escape. What Espers must endure when they help someone is on a trial that some are not able or willing to undertake. There is no precise date for the exam. It is up to the principal and the trainers to determine when an Esper is ready and warn him several weeks to several hours in advance. Therefore, some Espers can be trained much longer than others. I was a good Esper. I had no doubt about that since I was called to pass the final exam, but I had this feeling that there were gaps in my training. It's hard for me to imagine, even a little, what the exam might contain. I stayed lost in thought for some time, thinking about all this, Espers, my exam, and myself, when suddenly... Hey, new person! Oh god, Brett. Brett. What voice should I give you, Brett? Should I get the Lethius voice? Do I even remember how, like, immediately just do the Lethius voice? I don't know if I should do his voice on Lethius. Having played through the game, too early for Lethius? Alright, fair enough. You know what? I have a character in mind that could go for the Lethius voice. Just because it'll be hilarious. Simply because of who it's supposed to be. But don't worry about that. That'll come later. Rio? Whatever. Are you there? Don't wait too long, your exam's coming up and we have a surprise for you. That was Brett, my best friend here at the Academy. He remains my best friend to this day. Is it already the site? Give me a minute to put on my, put my shoes on. And that's how everything started. Sorry, Brett, I had to stumble over the words for a moment there. I'm fine, I'm not having a stroke or anything. All is well. Just caught up in the moment of the exam and everything. Keep misreading Brett as bread. Or do you mean mishearing Brett as bread? Because you said misleading. Which makes no sense in this context, Lamb. Miss Herring. Yeah. For most students, it was a Sunday like any other in the academy dorms. So you got the Mona Lisa in the background without a face, which is creepy as shit. Daily life followed its course and nothing seemed able to change that. It was only the day of rest for many. Wait, what? Oh, it was the only day of rest for many. My brain, for some reason, even though having been through this before, was with that. Yes, my best friend. Breakfast. You only have bread for breakfast? Liam, what's wrong with you? Saturdays being dedicated to catch-up sessions. We lived here most of the year. The older rules were much stricter than the current ones. We only had a few opportunities to go home to our families, and even less for foreign students. But for many, this was no longer a problem after several weeks. Students enjoyed the academy so much, and even more so the dorms, to the point that they considered them as their true home, despite a somewhat particular atmosphere. What kind of atmosphere? School atmosphere? I don't know. At that time, contrary to the rooms, the dorm corridors had yet to be renovated. They were the last vestiges of the old manor which served as a base for the academy. An unforgettable smell of old, stale wood emanated from them. Technically it would be potato just because hash browns, but bread. You know, you can put the hash browns on bread. You can make a hash brown sandwich. Maybe some ketchup there, too. I don't know if you have ketchup with your hash browns. I do, but not always. Depends on, like, it. If I'm just having hash browns, then yeah, I would have ketchup with it. But... eh. You've made hash brown burgers before. Interesting. Doesn't sound terrible. I cannot remember a single classmate living without shedding a tear, not just because of the pain of being separated from one's friends, no. This place definitely had something special outside of its unpolished aspect. And unsurprisingly, it was there that Brett chose to meet up with me before my exam. Hash burgers? Yeah, Lamb, that would just immediately imply something else. He was waiting for me, probably for some time, with his back to the wall adjacent to my door. The tapping of his foot and his relief when he saw me were testament to his growing impatience. That is Brett. Brett is blonde, with blue eyes. I'm gonna burn through this coffee that I'm drinking like no tomorrow. I just know it. Oh, hey, Rio. It's about time. I wanted to speak to you before your exam. Sorry, Brett. I got a bit lost in thought. I didn't see the time pass. Brett was my dorm neighbor for 7 years. He was 2 years younger than me, but that didn't stop us from rapidly becoming good friends. Because ageism. He was my best friend here at the academy, a friendship that continues to this day. With only 6 people per dorm, we were often, perhaps too often, in the company of the same people. This helped greatly to form bonds with the others, but caused big problems during arguments and profound disagreements. Brett was a younger Esper that could be described as, passionate. Despite his young age, he was most likely one of the most knowledgeable people concerning Espers. He knew almost everything about us. Age is just a number. Exactly, Lamb. On top of knowing a lot about our history, he had also learned a lot about the Espers who came to the Academy before him and about the Academy itself. Might even call him a historian. But, I mean, that's just me. Those who didn't know him much, as well as the new students, took him for a senior, an old sage, if you will. He seemed to put up with this reputation, he even took advantage of it. What better for a person who wanted the most out of their free time than to have a reputation as a loner student? This way he avoided many solicitations and could concentrate on his researches and his discoveries. He knew many anecdotes about everything that was happening around here. He knew how to get out of the dorm stealthily whatever the day of the week, or even how to get a second serving at the cafeteria without getting caught. His preoccupation with this stuff was most likely a way for him to forget about his family and his problems. He was very young when he was sent here, and his first months were difficult. The academies of the United States, his home country, were full, so he was transferred to Japan because, of course. By the way, while this was developed by a French developer, he actually has mentioned that this was supposed to be kind of taking place in Japan if it wasn't obvious and had that, you know, Japanese feel. Kinda curious to know if Lamb feels like he pulled that off. Or if anyone thinks he pulled it off. I don't know. I think it's probably a bit too early to really tell one way or the other for anyone, but let's continue. They convinced his parents that he was a child prodigy and that the best thing for him was to study abroad. Or two, know what I'm saying? I feel terrible for making the joke. There was probably some truth in what his parents were told. He was, and still is by the way, a very talented Esper. But being totally cut off from his family and having to overcome both the language and the cultural barrier at such a young age was undoubtedly a terrible ordeal. Oh, you made the assumption, Lamb? Well, in the end, he kept on telling us that this was his choice. I should feel terrible for that joke. Come on, Lamb, it wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad, was it? He could have waited a few years and found... Wait. That it was his choice. He could have waited a few years and found a place in an academy in his home country, but he was rapidly seduced by what he learned about Espers and made getting his diploma a top priority. He was seduced by the power of knowledge, and it's only half... That was a joke from, like, the 50s. I mean... Shut up, Lamb. This was a good thing for me. The Esper who lived in Brett's room before he arrived was a bit unpleasant. Even if Brett had a tendency to tell unending stories that I feigned listening to most of the time, my last years here would have been quite different without him, as I had the feeling he thought of me as his second family. For real, listening to me? This is important. Yeah, sorry, I was still lost in thought about the upcoming exam. As I get more lost in thought about more dialogue about Brett. Brett stood up and brushed off pieces of decomposing wallpaper that had stuck to his uniform. Brian, why were you having so much of an issue reading that? He stepped towards me with a somber tone that made me take a step back. That's exactly what I want to talk to you, That's exactly what I want to talk about, your exam. I knew that expression, although I would have liked to forget it. Despite his great rigor, Brett was usually a much more laid-back person than he hardly ever used his serious face. That's a serious face. Hi, serious face. The last time he looked at me like that was 2 years ago when I had come up with a gross lie to justify why I was so regularly unavailable while I was in fact secretly preparing a surprise party for his birthday. That was the first time I had ever lied to him, and to this day it is the only time I have ever truly lied to him. But it was for a very good reason. For that matter, it was more an excuse than a lie, even if he did not see it that way. I made him think that I had discovered a new passion for stamps. Claiming having been able to acquire some and having become a determined philatelist. I know what that word means, I just can't pronounce it. Sue me. Who spent most of his time sorting and admiring his precious collection. I still don't know why this came to mind, because of the urgency of the situation. Stamps? Why stamps? I know Stoy actually mentioned why stamps. Let's see, can I do a quick search on Discord? Stamps. No. Stamp? No. Okay, maybe it's in game then that got mentioned. Thank you, Log, for existing. I still don't know why this came to mind because of the urgency of the situation. I told him the first thing that popped in my head in order to keep him in the dark about what I was preparing with the other roommates. Okay. But when he started asking me questions about this alleged new passion, I was obviously unable to answer them precisely, contenting myself with vague, unconvincing explanations. He rapidly understood that something was going on. He then gave me a look as if to tell me I had better have a good reason to be acting this way and that he would not accept any bogus excuses. As I was saying while you were daydreaming, it is tradition for Espers who are going to take their exam to listen to small lessons from their friends. Wallace, Kota, and I have been chosen to help you in your final revisions. Oh, Kota? Kota? Mongo? Kota. Kota. Furthermore, if I'm not mistaken, you still have a couple hours before your exam starts. You therefore have plenty of time to listen to me. Brett was always like that. It was one of the aspects of his personality that most defined him. He always seemed to know more about me and what I needed to do than I did. I was expecting something more serious, given the expression on your... oh, I'm actually saying this. Given the expression on your face, if it's only that, I'll hear you out. I walked up to the windowsill and sat down on it. I knew Brett's stories well, long and unending, despite what he may say. He knew how to monopolize his listeners' attention. The hardwood floors, eaten away by time and insects, creaked under the 3 steps it took me to reach the window and sit down on its edge, which I carefully cleared of any residual dust with a few quick sweeps of the hand. This may be more important than you think, Rio. Since I know that you don't know it, I'm going to tell you the story that is considered as the first known trace of an Esper's work. This event takes us back to 15th century France under the rule of King Charles VII. I know that history is your greatest passion, Rio, but try to concentrate. This could be useful information. True, I've always had trouble with dates and I really didn't remember much from all our lessons. I had some recent events. Maybe you'll make a good teacher. We shall see. The information that I'm about to impart to you comes from documents written by a 15th century writer, Georges Chastelade. He mentions a new advisor to the king, who in just a few days managed to return faith and courage to the king, who was at the time in depression's grasp, eventually leading to the liberation of France several years later. The writer knows that these two people were in regular contact, often out of sight of the court, which he himself was part of during this period. There is no proof or additional information, but given the accounts of other texts about the king's mental state at that time, it was established that this was the first recorded intervention of an Esper. These texts say that the king was in a state of advanced and long-standing depression that 15th century medicine could not deal with effectively. It is, Lamb. I just... fuck pronouncing it. There are also some passages mentioning similar signs of the king's advisor during the first days, but of less importance. That's fantastic, right? We were able to trace our history all the way to that time, all the way to that period in time. You do not understand why this account is considered plausible by Espers, don't you? Or, I'm sorry, you do understand. You don't understand why this isn't? I'd effectively understood and recalled this date and event. Instinctively, I jumped towards Brett to show him my appreciation. I was knocking some vases off the old rickety furniture lining the corridor on my way over. Yes, I understand completely. Espers need to stay in contact with the person they need to help to understand their problems. This is all the more true in this case so that the customer was unaware of his powers. I was doing it all excited like, right? Yeah, that's... During this phase, Espers share the pain and sorrow of the person they want to help, and less experienced Espers can suffer moral or even physical repercussions. Current day Espers, aware of their task and their abilities, can afford more punctual relations with the person they aim to help and know how to deal with this shared grief. Brett lowered his head and put his hand firmly on my shoulder. A short silence followed before he looked up, a wide grin of satisfaction on his face. That's it, Rio. I'm not surprised you were summoned to the final exam. You seem ready. Did you go see Quota and Wallace now? They're in the dormitory park. They have prepared a little something for you as well. I still have a lot of work to do this afternoon. I have to finish my thesis on the presence of Espers in the 12th century, so I won't be able to accompany you. But promise you'll come see me as soon as your exam is finished, okay? I don't know when it'll finish, but that's the deal. You can count on me. Thanks, Rio. Good luck and see you later. Thanks, Brad. See you later. Coffee. As I left, Brad waved at me in a somewhat casual manner, which was rather unusual for him. I think today that he simply wanted to play down the situation. He wanted to make me understand that everything was going to be fine. After taking a few seconds to consider everything I had learned, I came back to my senses and decided what to do next. Caught myself speaking out loud. I don't think I have a choice. I have to go to the park to follow Quota. Wallace's lesson. Who knows, they might surprise me as well and manage to make me remember important facts about our history. The way I'm saying Quota, by the way, I'm half tempted to make Kota's voice that way. Half tempted. Through the large windows, I could already make out my classmates taking advantage of the freshness of the sunny morning. After several seconds of hesitation, I finally set off. We made it outside. for more history and ow, finger cracking apparently. Kota. Minnesota. Kota. Lamb, I mean, I already intended on playing this game on stream after helping out with it. And I already knew how much reading there was. Like, what the hell? How many words did Story say that there was here? Uh, 75,000 words approximately is written for this game. Approximately 75,000 words. Not including any additional commentary or stuff like this that I'm talking, so, you're gonna be around for a while. There's gonna be a lot of reading. 10 years ago, the Academy was not as big as it is now. The only good thing about Hand of Fate, by the way, Lamb, is there's other shit that goes on besides just constant reading. Like the fighting and listening to him. Granted, that gets repetitive fairly quick. Oh, no I do, Lamb. No, I do. The Academy was not as big as it is now. It could only accommodate a handful of Espers due to a lack of space and means. There were only 4 dormitories. A and B for the boys, and C and D for the girls. The girls want the D dorm. I'm moving on. Each dorm had 6 rooms, 2 at each cardinal point except south. The corridors formed a square, and at the center was the park. The southernmost corridor of the dorms led to the Academy. The southern exit also led to the park. I mean, yeah, true, Lamb, but if I was, like, hitting the same events repeatedly, I would just go, like, read every 3rd word or something, just go blah, 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 or, like, not even bother reading it out. In short, once you were at the center of the south corridor, if you exited north, you would enter the park, and if you exited south, you would enter the Academy. But things have changed a lot since the renovation of the dormitories was finished. The Academy can now accommodate many more students and in much better conditions, but I cannot resist reminiscing about this place as it was when I lived there. It's a part of my life that has disappeared, and I still have some trouble getting over it. The parks let us take advantage of nice weather. Academy outings were limited and controlled because of the risk and inexperienced Esper might pose at a place where his powers might manifest. These were quite different in every way. In each park were benches, flowers, trees, and even a vegetable garden in Dorm C. But only Dorm C. Dorm C is the only one that's allowed to have a vegetable garden. A, B, and D? Screw them. No vegetable garden. Not allowed. They don't get to have their veggies. Sometimes variations in the events that cause a different outcome. Yeah, true, Lamb, but I mean, I've kind of gotten to the point where I can read while talking about whatever. Like right now I'm kind of reading the text on the screen while glancing back at chat to see if anything else was said. I don't know, maybe it's just something I've learned to be able to do over the years of streaming on YouTube and whatnot. It was originally used for experiments, the nature of which we knew nothing about, and so don't, by the way. Then it was cultivated by the following generations to supply the Academy cafeteria from time to time. Our park's unique feature, Dormitory A, was the presence of a small pond. For many long years, the remains of the dorm room renovations were placed in the park. A gets a smithy, B gets a... A gets a smithy, B gets a playground, C gets a gardens, D gets the... well... no, apparently we get the pond. Apparently A gets the pond. Who knew? Replaced with the park, degrading the terrain and creating a pit that, little by little, filled up to become a pond. Despite the deplorable state of the stagnant water, it was the stage of many a dare and morally dubious pranks, leading to unexpected and expensive uniform changes for the Academy. The tempering pond? We're not crafting blades of weaponry, okay, Liam? We are holding internal, not interior. Granted, I guess in a way they're interior, but it's not the right word. Abilities. Okay? This is not a sword. We are not quenching the blade. I really appreciated spending time in the park. It was one of the rare outdoor areas accessible to students at any time without supervision and without constraints. We spent a good part of our free time in the park, maybe because there wasn't much else to do. In contrast to regular schools in Japan, the academy did not have after-school club activities and never did, by the way, and there simply weren't any clubs. This was primarily because of the small number of students and, in some cases, because of the lack of installations. The official reasons were the lack of finances and, most of all, to avoid drawing attention to the academy. It was, however, possible to sign up to other numerous activities, but this was a step that had to be taken manually. On top of which, all activities that took place outside of the academy required authorizations that took forever to arrive and supervision by a competent person. I studied the weird brain powers. I studied the blade. Blades! Ahem. It was therefore much easier to come here and relax. On occasion, we would ask permission to go play tennis or to go to the pool, but we had to start planning 2 months in advance to get what we wanted. By the way, Lamb, why can't we have shit like this during some of our gameplay? We therefore preferred to stick to activities authorized within the academy, that we practiced from time to time and spent most of our free time in the park or in the dorm corridors. I tried many things in my time in the academy, though perhaps trying will be better overall than what Dungeon Siege ended up being for us. Well, for you, at least. The academy music, drawing, astronomy, and even sewing, but never, or suing. C-E-U. Like, just the banter that we just had there, Lamb. But never found any passion for them. I think I just wanted to try a little bit of everything. Kinda like what we did for, Icewind Dale. Kinda like what happened during that, like that. It's actually one of my, more favorite series that we did. Hell, it's actually one of my more favorite series that I've done, ever. Others, on the other hand, followed the same path for years. Wallace became an expert in calligraphy, and Brett obviously continued to pass his free time reading everything you could get his hands on. Did I feel like I missed a line. Did I miss a line? No, I didn't. Okay. It was important that everyone find something to do. It was absolutely necessary to break the monotony of our days here, especially over the weekend, and even more for those who stayed at the academy over the holidays. Yeah, I mean, true, Lamb, but in the same breath, we didn't really, pay attention to everything everyone said, and also, considering Dungeon Siege 1 didn't actually allow us to fucking talk to the same people at the same time, it was a bit harder to, for sure. When I opened the door leading to the park, time seemed to stop for a few seconds. All my friends, aside from Brett, were there. They turned towards me and started to clap. It's at that precise moment that I understood that many, many things were going to change. Many things. So many things. Oh, I clap. I'm clapping. I felt emotion overwhelm me as the sound of acclamation washed over me. The encouragements abounded. And the more time passed, the harder it was for me to contain myself. Finally, what was bound to happen, happened. I burst into tears. My friends rushed to my side to comfort me and give me a proper welcome. I had not yet realized it, but the time had come to say our goodbyes, and I was utterly unprepared. After several minutes to recollect myself, I mean, hell, Lamb. Fucking, Dungeon Siege gave us too many kills. At the very end, gave us too many kills. We had to have too many kills in order to make this fucking set of armor. Or whatever the hell it was. Too many kills. Never forgetting, too many kills. After several minutes to recollect myself, my friends returned to the occupations and Kolta. The first during this goodbye came up to me. He was, as usual, admiring himself in a pocket mirror, and he was seemingly enjoying himself. His narcissistic side was more laughable than an actual bother, and we usually did not pay much attention to it. Hey, what's up, Rio? Just a moment. There. I'm all ears now. Have you come searching for your lesson from the great Kota? Kota? Lived in the room furthest from mine. Even if nothing could be really considered far in a 6-person dorm, this distance was enough for us not to be great friends. Okay. I'm gonna make a quick note about this. Yeah, it really is. I just sent Stoy a message about it. Whatever. It's one of those things. It happens. There was no animosity between us, far from that, but we were more acquaintances. Friend of a friend, that must be it. I got along better with certain members of the other dorms than with him. He was sometimes, in my opinion, a bit too pretentious and totally obsessed with himself. But he also had a good side. He was not really a bad person, just a difficult person to bear from time to time. And by way of goodbye, he had chosen to play the professor role with maybe a bit too much gusto. Before I even said a word, he began to make large gestures with his arms. I do not know if he was trying to give me off an air of importance or to attract a crowd, but it was rather ridiculous even coming from him. The only thing that could have happened, Lamb, the first time I went through the game, for the English translation, it could be that that was actually changed by me, and I could have fucked up on it. I don't know. I don't remember all the changes I did. He may also have been having a seizure. Yeah, the large flappy arms. He could become a whole game with that if he was having a seizure with flappy arms. Take your seats, my dear students. Today we are going to talk about a very important event in Esper history. Who can tell what we're going to talk about? Don't be shy, raise your hands. I see that little Rio is quite timid. Your teacher understands, don't worry. I don't know what this kind of like thing I'm doing with Coda right now is. Today we are going to talk about the first irrefutable proof of an Esper's doings. This is an event of extreme importance that every Esper must know on the tip of their fingers. I had, as usual, forgotten the story. I tried to hide my ignorance by keeping the most neutral expression possible despite everything that had just happened. Okota did not seem to pay me any attention. He was lost in his role and everything that surrounded him ceased to exist in his eyes. It is also much easier to read on my own without having to speak it out. This first proof, then, where did it appear? Anyone? The Great Kota is disappointed by your knowledge. He was going to have to teach you all he knows. Trying to, like... I feel like I'm trying to do a Pappas kind of thing, but I don't know. I don't feel like I'm there. Finally, and I do not know if this was his goal, but his completely out-of-place attitude relaxed me. Made me forget about what had just happened and what had yet to come. Now, this event took place in 16th century Scotland. It was pieced together thanks to the tale of a 40-year-old man about his wife seriously impaired mentally from one day to the next. According to his writings by the Great Kota, his wife became like a void, like an empty shell whose content would have been removed, incapable of speaking or explaining what was happening to her. She was able to live normally, but she seemed insipid from dawn to dusk. Should that have been 1L? No. 1L's weird. Never mind. Don't think about trying to correct shit here, me. Not my place anymore. Done with that. As his monologue became more and more interspersed with anecdotes unrelated to the subject at hand, Kota stood on a nearby stone to add to his height and then raised his voice. His content got removed. Damn you, YouTube! Damn you, Twitch! Banning R-rated games like, Super something Inferno something, forgot name something. The other students present in the park looked at him with an air of spite. Contrary to the Great Kota, speaker of great class always serving his student. Sorry, let me start over. Then, aware that his attempt had not had the intended impact on the other students, Kota decided to get off the stone and return to his explanations, and strangely, he didn't veer away from the subject anymore. Well, didn't veer off much. But that was like a goddamn R-rated game name. I'm like... It's bothering me now. The man talked about how little by little he started to feel his wife's fear and then anxiety when he was in her presence. Yes, Lamb, that game. The maiden rape episode, Violent Semen Inferno. That game name is so goddamn intense. First very weak, these feelings rapidly grew and were later accompanied by visions often blurred. He explains that he thought he was going crazy, but the doctors at the time couldn't find anything wrong with him, and for good reason. He was not sick. You were still looking it up before I even said it. Nice. Then one day, the fear and anxiety intensified, and the visions became clear. In front of his eyes, he saw the scene of a murder his wife had witnessed to several weeks ago. He quickly made the link between these events and his wife's current state, without understanding or being able to explain why he was having these visions. Now that he was able to understand his beloved's suffering, he did everything he could to help her. After much effort, he finally managed to return her will to live, and together they were able to shed light on this sinister affair. So, why do we consider this proof as irrefutable? Raise your hand before you speak. No? Anybody? I say you still need the wisdom of the great Quarter. Quarter. I like how I'm pronouncing this guy's name, by the way. It's great. I will tell you everything. For most, the burst of empathy shown by this man is characteristic of what beginner Espers sometimes experience, since they are incapable of controlling their power. Furthermore, his ability to finally succeed in saving his wife from her state was another argument in favor of the actions of an Esper. Unfortunately, no other tale of this man was ever found. Now, Sunro, you understand what happened. I had a lot of trouble sorting out everything I just heard. Yeah, so did I. Rio, don't worry about it. I had trouble sorting it out the first time I read this. I was just like, okay. I feel like this is less important, but kind of important, because it's history about the Espers, but in the same breath, it's like, it's obviously not intended to be too important, because it's coming from this guy. I don't know. All these ridiculous theatrics made me lose my concentration. I had needed a lot of luck to hold back from laughing out loud. I think I understand, yeah. This man, by staying close to his wife and helping her, he was able to see fragments of her memory. He was trying to understand why his wife was in that state, and that's when his powers manifested. Espers originally sick to understand others' pains. Others' pain, not... why did I make pain plural? That's what allows them to be able to help people down the line. We can't do anything without understanding the situation and what the person is feeling. Yeah, it wasn't mine either, Lamb, except for World War II. World War II is more my strong suit out of all of the histories of anything. Why? I don't know. Like the USA, we had 13 colonies. We had a civil war. What the original 13 colonies were, I couldn't tell you. I know Virginia's in there. In the original 13, and I think Maine, and some others, obviously like New York, but I'm not sure I'd be able to get all 13. The Civil War, who knows when the hell that happened? I know kind of what happened where it was. Same with like the Louisiana Purchase. I know it was a thing that happened. Only history you can think of is nope, got nothing. Alright, fair enough, Lamb. I remember a lot of the things that happened in history, I just don't know the specifics of them anymore. Espers originally seek to understand others' pain. That's what allows them to be... Wait, I already read this. Moving on. All this sorrow is a call for help that stimulates the powers of an Esper. They act as a catalyst. One can say that an Esper is a person with exceptional empathy. Empathy. Ota was making grand gestures with his arms. I did not know who was trying to congratulate himself or me. The great Ota is very impressed by what had just transpired. He is proud to be such an exceptional professor. Oh, despite him, he had just given me the answer. Speaking of exams, have you seen Wallace? He was also supposed to talk to me about Espers, and he seems to have evaporated during your explanation. Wallace? Wallace? Wallace, did you say? Who is this Wallace? Wallace, your next door neighbor? One with whom we spend every Tuesday evening playing Game Station 6? Best game station, by the way. Can't wait for Game Station 7 for the next gen. Game Station 7 is going to blow Game Station 6 out of the water. It's going to have all the game stuff and all the game peripherals. It's going to have all the things that Game Station 6 just could not deliver on. It's going to have better hardware. It's going to be great. It's going to support like 20K HD Ultra Retina displays and everything. No, Lamb. Wallace's first name is Wallace. Oh, Wallace, my apologies. The Great Cohota only remembers his own name. However, the Great Cohota has an impeccable visual memory, and Wallace is at the other end of the park. Saw him disappear before coming to meet you. He must be sleeping under a tree or something like that. He then took his mirror out and began to comb his hair again, without worrying about me. After a brief moment during which I did not know if I should leave or continue to wait, he finally told me a few more words. By the way, Ryu, what would one say? Good luck? Bye. 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 To this day, I haven't had any more contact with him, though I recently learned that he is now working in the administration of another academy in the north of the country. Alright, so, the Great Cohota is gone forever. We never see him again. Never. And then the Game Station 6 turns out to be just a cheap Pop Station clone. I know, right, Taff? But, that didn't happen with the Game Station 6. I was, shit, I'm not good enough at improv, apparently. I was trying to come up with something, like, off of, like, Xbox or Nintendo, and I got nothing. I got nothing. Finally headed towards the other end of the park until I saw a silhouette lying in the grass. It was Wallace, who was already taking a short rest. It only took me a few seconds to clear and make out Wallace laying under a tree. I did my best to be discreet and to not wake him up abruptly, but the sound of my footsteps still reached him. Also, figure out I've been talking for like an hour, and my voice does not like it. It has been non-stop talking, just non-stop, just keep going, talking. His amazing ability to sleep anywhere was really surprising and talking. As much as the speed at which he was able to fall asleep. No more than 15 minutes had passed since I had recovered from my emotions, and he had already fallen asleep outside. On top of that, wait, what? Whatever. He did not suffer from sleep disorders, nor was he narcoleptic. Not even a little. He was often the first to encourage us to stay awake longer when we were having small parties. But he had that, gift that he still has, by the way. We recently met up with each other as we don't have, We recently met up with each other as we have done each year since he obtained his diploma, and like every time, he was waiting for me in his favorite hammock at the end of his garden. Lamb, that was, the narcoleptic comment that, was made was more in regards to, him being able to sleep anywhere. So, narcolepsy could actually be a cause of that. To like, other people, you would just be sleeping at any position, anywhere. If you were to actually able to sleep, you could take that as narcolepsy. That said, I feel like I need to take a moment's rest for my voice, as I think of a voice to do for Wallace. Besides potentially stereotypical, obvious stuff, which may or may not be racist, even unattendedly. Or he could have just been in the military. Lamb, I can sleep anywhere. I can literally sleep anywhere. I've slept on dirt. I've slept on concrete. I've slept anywhere. I can still sleep anywhere. I haven't ever been in the military. Hello, Ria. No, I wasn't sleeping. I was thinking. You know what I was thinking about? I was gonna teach you before your exam. Don't ask me what the fuck that was. Wallace, he was first and foremost the life and soul of our group. Without him, we wouldn't have had as much fun these last few years, and it's him who managed as best he could to gather all of us together. Before we got involved, everyone respected each other, but it stopped there. There used to be 3 groups of 2 students that he managed to transform into 1 group of 6. And if you're wondering, the math does work out that out with that. 2 groups of 3, 2 times 3 would be 1 group of 6, 1 times 6. They are equal. Does make sense. Or I could just be making a comment about something that no one cares about. You know. In the end, he was the only one, or the first, who put in the effort and told himself that we would all have a better time if we all got along and did things together. To convince everyone who was right, he took a great risk. He took a great risk. Risk. With an R sound to me. Risk. Smuggling a current generation console into the academy with 6 controllers and enough games to last us the months to come. That was exactly what was missing to create an atmosphere that was never going to disappear, even if we never did become good, great friends. I need to read better and speak my words. What was created at that time contributed greatly to our success, instead of, like, slurring all over the place. He took a will-o-wisp. Will-o-wisp? What? Wait, what? What, like? My brain's just not making any understanding of what you just said. Ready to go? I want to talk to you about the American Civil War. Oh, hey. More something about one of my ancestors. I know the story by heart. It's a grand family story that isn't taught here. This is a good opportunity for you to learn more about it. Wallace took a deep breath and closed his eyes for a short moment before opening them again. It all happened in 19th century USA during the Civil War. This is a story about a woman reduced to slavery who was then freed and married her former master. By the way, I forgot this was even in here. Who she had said, this woman was my many more great-grandmothers. When she... Damn it, saliva. When she broached the subject, she said, like many supposed Espers, to have started noticing feelings that were not her own, most only when she was in proximity to her master. Me, don't go down that road any further than I just did. What's interesting is that she evokes a link she felt between been reading too much, apparently. What's interesting is that she evokes a link she felt between, She felt being created between them, as if she was a source of energy, of well-being, of happiness, of motivation, without any feelings of friendship or love interfering, at least originally. She explains that her master shared these same feelings with her after having finally understood them. This aspect is very meaningful, bro. It is very likely this was the primary power of Espers, the one that returns the will to live. After the death of my my ancestor, her husband tried to continue her memoirs, but in vain. It's from these memoirs that I get my information. Isn't this cool, real? Isn't this cool? The only thing he managed to bring up was a terrible hollow feeling, as if someone had removed his soul. He felt not but grief and sorrow over having lost his beloved the day of the child's birth. I felt, given his tone, that the story was dear to him. His voice cracked, his eyes shone, but not for one moment did I believe what he was sad. It was pride of having been part of a lineage of Espers, but also the admiration towards what that woman did despite her condition. Wallace told me several years later how he heard of the story and what changed within him when he heard it for the first time. I then realized during the discussion that I did not know just how important this event was to him. It's this tale that encouraged him to become an Esper. He learned it from his parents, and them two Espers, when he was still very young. At this time he had little interest in his emerging powers, and preferred to stay at his quarter. Stay at the quarter! Not allowed to get out of the quarter. Punishment quarter. What are you being punished for? But think about going outside the quarter. He felt different. He wanted to forget what he felt, his powers, fragments of visions, but when his parents finally told him this story, as for many young Espers, something awoke inside of him. He realized he had a gift, that he too could become a person as strong as his ancestor. These words echoed within him and convinced him to become who he is today, an accomplished Esper. According to the other text, the husband died several weeks later. The poor guy was very likely under the influence of this link that neither him nor, well, his wife had mastered. The sudden severing of the link, in addition to his grief over his loss, were fatal for him. Lamb. Yes, it is genetic. However, he did not initially want to become an Esper in the sense of like being a Esper with a Esper job. He wanted to just exist as a person in his corner. What do you think, Ro? A piece of history right here in front of you. Well, a piece of 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 a piece. It was very informative, so that's how Esper powers manifest. After having understood and accepted the pain and the suffering of others that act as a source of energy for our powers, they can manifest that, or in the case of Espers, who master them, be used. The more the person is suffering, the more the link will be powered, and the more powerful it can become. It is therefore essential for an Esper to have perfect control of his powers, for his good and for that of the person he is helping. However, a person who is suffering enormously does not necessarily imply a faster link creation. Depends on the Esper's ability to understand the pain and suffering of the person in question. It sometimes takes time to open the hearts and souls of the most affected people. This link is commonly called an empathy link. Essentially, it reassures the concerned person, making them understand they are not alone in their fight. During this phase that the Esper can start to read his target's feelings. During that period, the link will charge to its maximum. Give it all you got, Cap. Wait. I fucked up on quoting that. Moving on. It's gone now. I fucked up. And little by little, it will help the person to have happy thoughts and memories again until they are fully healed. But the link does not do everything. The Esper is of great importance as well. Bro, real? Whoa, real? Whoa. I went Scooby-Doo there momentarily. You're stealing my spotlight here. I'm the one who's supposed to teach you, not the other way around, but I'm relieved. Going to ace your exam. All started to bite his lip. Something seemed to be bothering him, but I could not tell if it was good or bad. He put on his worst acting face and tried to make me believe that he had just... Yeah, Lamb, that's what I meant to say, but I gave it... I fucked up so much on that. Something seemed to be bothering, but I could not tell if it was good or bad. He put on his worst act to believe me that he had just recalled some information which he obviously had not forgotten. By the way, we didn't tell you, but we have a small surprise for you. Fourth lesson, given by the magnificent Haruka from Dorm C. I think she insisted on helping you to thank you for... I don't really know what exactly. I'm so jealous. Why is it never me? She is waiting for you in the entrance hall of the academy. Hurry up, dude. Going back to sleep. Good luck on your exams. Haruka. And we're close, therefore I wasn't surprised to hear that. Furthermore, several weeks ago, while attending a lesson where we practiced using our powers, I was, victim of a very strong pain from trying to understand what Haruka was feeling. I didn't say anything, but the resulting headache lasted at least 6 days. However, I think she understood what had happened and she wanted to do something for me, to make it up to me. Sorry. I looked one last time around me. My classmates had already returned to their activities and were no longer worrying about me, almost. As I left the dorm, I realized that a chapter of my life had just ended. And this is where we are going to take a brief break to let my voice rest. It has been a proper hour of just non-stop talking, and I need to take a moment to chill, and to also use the restroom. But I mean, main thing to let my voice rest for a moment.